I think a lot of people look at retirement accounts like some kind of homework assignment, something you do because you're supposed to. But the way I look at a Roth IRA is completely different. It's like insurance. It's insurance against a future version of the world where taxes are going to be significantly higher and you're no longer interested in grinding out for a paycheck. We all know that the government is going to want their cut. And as you get older and your income climbs, the cut's going to get deeper. So a Roth is your way to lock in your tax rate at zero for the rest of your life. You pay the tax on the seed, not on the harvest. I put money in, I automate it, and for the most part, just let it exist in the background as a safety net that grows while I sleep. So let's go into the math of this and how much that's going to matter the earlier you start. So the reason you should open it today and not next week or next year or whenever you get a raise or something is because time is the only variable in finance that you can't negotiate with. So here's the math on it. If you started at 18 years old and maxed out the Roth IRA for only 5 years, so that's $7,000 a year for 5 years until you're 23. That's $35,000 total. You never have to touch it again, never put any more money in again after the age of 23. You'd be looking at around $750,000 or $750,000 by the time that you're 60, when you could pull out of that without any penalty. Now, let's compare that to someone who right now starts it at the age of 35. If they started it today and put in $7,000 every single year for 25 years straight until they got to the age of 60, they would be putting in a total of $175,000, and they would only have around $550,000 to $600,000 from the investment climbing. So as you can see, the person at the age of 18 put in way less money, but ended up with a couple $100,000 more just because of the simple fact that they gave interest more time to compound. That's not to say that it's going to be too late if you're 30 or even 40 years old. You should still absolutely contribute to your Roth IRA. Just the tax advantages alone is one of the smartest moves on the board. But it would illustrate the reasoning of why waiting for the right time is probably the most expensive mistake you could make. So let's go into the strategy inside your Roth of what you should probably follow. This is not investment advice. This is what I personally do, and this is what I would recommend if someone were to ask me. Basically, what you're going to want to do is follow the John Bogle 3-fund portfolio method. It's extremely simple, and all you have to do is pick one total stock market index or S&P 500. This is going to be where your growth comes from. It's going to be large exposure for US markets. So this would be like your VTI or VTSAX, or if you go with Fidelity like myself, then VZ Rocks, which is a zero expense ratio fund. Secondly, you're going to want to add an international index. That way you're not putting all your money into the US. So this would be like your VXUS, VTIAX, or for Fidelity it'd be VZILX. And thirdly, you're going to want to have a bond market index. This is going to be like your anchor. So that would be like BND or VBTLX, or for Fidelity it'd be FXNAX. Your split of how you want to divide these three is going to be entirely dependent on your risk tolerance. So the younger you are, the more aggressive you want to be, meaning you want to put probably your largest position, I would say, into your total stock market or S&P 500 index, and then a smaller slice into your international, with the small slice being in bonds. As you get older, though, you're going to shift that weight. You're going to put more into your bonds and less into the international and S&P 500 or total market. Because by the time, imagine you're 55, you're 4 or 5 years from retirement, and then your portfolio drops 30% in just a month, right? If you have bonds, that's not going to happen. But this is why, especially when you're young, starting with a 3-fund portfolio is going to be your safest path to a dignified retirement. So I would do my own research to completely 100% figure out what your risk tolerance is, but a good starting point generally I would say would be about 60% into your total market, 20% into international, and 20% into bonds. And look, the Roth's just one pillar. To really build a full, fortress, if you will, against inflation, just protecting all your assets, you're probably going to want to take advantage of maybe an employer's 401k. So if they offer 4% match, then put at least that 4% in. That's literally free money, right? Having a high yield savings account is another thing, and an HRA or HSA healthcare account, that's also another one I would recommend putting into if it's offered. And I would personally put even a small percentage into hard assets like think Bitcoin, gold, and maybe even silver or platinum or whatever. None of this is going to matter at the end of the day if you're not consistent, though. Consistency is not going to guarantee you that you're going to be a millionaire, but lack of consistency will guarantee that you will never be a millionaire. And if things are tight right now, you might be living paycheck to paycheck, just start with the budget. Cut the excessive spending and find a way to allocate even just a tiny percent to your future. As long as you could, put a small percentage of money into your Roth for your future, that's going to go a long way. And even, if you're still living at home with your parents and you are not being charged any rent or have to pay for a bunch of groceries or anything like that, you have the opportunity of a lifetime right now. You should be investing 50, 60, 70%, either investing or saving. I would say 60 or 70% at least of your income. And maybe even get a second job if you got the time and energy to do so. Me personally, if I could have stayed with my parents a little bit longer to build up that foundation more, I definitely would have. But yeah, just set yourself up now, because when you do finally move out, that's going to pay off tenfold in your future. Be disciplined about it today so that you can be free in the future. Yeah, if you guys like what you heard today, consider liking and subscribing. Comment down below what you're doing. And look, guys, at the end of the day, no one's coming to save you. Nobody cares about your bank account or your retirement more than you do. You could watch all the videos in the world and listen to me talk about this crap and learn every ticker in the book, right? But if you don't actually open an account and start contributing, none of it even matters. I'm not saying you have to live a miserable life and, never buy coffee or go and do fun things with your friends. What I'm saying is that you need to respect your future self enough to give them a chance. Things are getting more expensive. The world's fucked, right? But if you build the habit now when you're young, and while you're motivated, and while you have the energy, you're not going to look back on this time and be like, man, wonder what would have happened if I would have done this. If you found this helpful, or you want me to do a deeper dive into the specifics of a Roth, or more of my thoughts on this, let me know in the comments. Otherwise, stop watching this video, go open your account, and I'll see you in the next one.